Well, let's start this way. And it's right here from the capital, where we do know that hope may finally be on the horizon for scrap metal dealers at Agbogloshi e-waste area right here in Accra. The Environmental Protection Agency has begun a process to have e-waste bought from scrap dealers and to have them processed under healthy conditions. At a stakeholders meeting in the capital, the EPA boss John Pwamang said the project forms part of the implementation of the law passed in 2016 to address the menace.
This is one of the world's most poisonous sites, Agbogloshi, where your electronic gadgets come to die. Computers, refrigerators, wires, TV sets, you name it. All in hot, blazing fire. The boys who work here have come mainly from North Ghana and work from dawn to dusk, breaking their back in this toxic smoke. But the real people who pay the price for the waste they leave here run into the hundreds of thousands. One of them is Hanan Yusuf, who came here aged 14 and has been working for more than 10 years.
Like this work, if you work it at any time at all, you will feeling malaria. You will feeling malaria and your body will be hot. Even when you bath, you won't see it unless you just go to some drugstore and buy some malaria medicine and take.
And now change seems to be on the horizon. The Environmental Protection Agency is opening a new dawn to change the way and manner in which e-waste materials are collected and processed.
We sampled about 100 workers in this scrap yard and looked at their urine and their blood samples. And we analyzed for 12 heavy metals. And the results were just, alarming, which shows the kind of the pollution level in the area and how this is affecting health. So we have done all this work, so we know a lot about what goes on here.
Through a new project that the EPA is embarking on, a center is going to be created in the Agbogloshi enclave to buy these e-waste materials from scrap dealers and fix machines that would ensure that they are safely processed and the best of copper extracted from the scraps that are collected.
All the burning should stop. Burning of sawdust, burning of coconut husk, burning of lorry tires, to shin hides of animals, burning of lorry tires to recover metals, steel, to sell to the steel mills, burning of refrigerator foams, burning of plastic, casings of refrigerators and other electrical gadgets, burning of electric motors to soften them so as to be able to remove copper from them, burning in the evening, burning in the night, so as to avoid when people are around. All these acts are prohibited by law.
With this project, the EPA seeks to enforce Section 12A of the Hazardous and Electronic Waste Control and Management Act, passed in 2016, which mandates it to monitor the management of hazardous waste and other wastes in order to prevent any harmful effect of these waste materials on human health and the environment. This will not be the first attempt at addressing the e-waste menace in the Agbogloshi enclave, and players in this space will be keen on finding out what difference this new intervention would make. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Accra.
In the Ashanti region, the National Peace Council is asking the two major political parties to adhere to electoral rules and regulations for the registration exercise to proceed peacefully. Chairman of the council, the Most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante, has been speaking with leaders of the governing New Patriotic Party and the opposition National Democratic Congress in the Aswanse constituency on rising tensions during the ongoing compilation of the register. Nana Sensu Mensah has more in this report.
The Peace Council chairman toured some registration centers in the Asawase constituency, during which he also raised concerns about social distancing breaches. He says a lot of education is needed to ensure registrants conform to social distancing protocols.
I'm sure that the EC should continue to educate people. The new queue management system is good, but whether the people have really understood it is another matter. I think the queue management system is something that will really ensure the social distancing that we are talking about. It's intended to do that. But if you look at the way people, they are maintaining some kind of social distance. You go to some places, you see some form of it. But I think we need to educate people the more to understand that COVID-19 is a reality and that we should be very, 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 very careful about COVID-19,
Professor Asante later admonished the political leaders to exhaust the laid-down electoral rules if they have any concerns, rather than take the law into their own hands.
These things are to be expected. There is no way that you're going to meet political parties like NDC, NPP, and expect that they will all be in agreement. But getting from all of them, apart from the counter-accusations, we realize that all of them want the registration to go on. They want peace to prevail. We've spoken to them that they should try as much as possible to maintain peace, and that if they are not happy with it, they should go by the rules and make their complaints to the appropriate bodies. Once these have been done, we believe that we'll be able to move forward. Nobody should take the laws into their own hands, and there should be no bloodshed whatsoever because of registration and because of the election. After all, what is it that we are seeking to do? We're doing this to elect, people who would represent us to ensure the development of our nation. This is not a matter for us to fight about.
Asawase has been flagged as a hot spot since the registration began last week. The council is, however, confident meeting with political parties will ensure peace prevails. Representatives of both parties responded to the council's admonition.
But I would advise them that once they have events, they should try and make sure that we follow the due process. Channels of grievances are there. Challenge forms are not there for nothing. They are not there for ornamental purposes. They are not there for any other thing but to challenge in due process. So we should follow those channels for peace to prevail. We want free, fair, and peaceful registration and election in 2020. And I hope, inshallah, we will get there. But the throwing of stones on the fence and trying to create the impression that Asawase is on fire, there is no peace in Asokore Mampong. I stand here as the chairman of the Security Council, and I'm saying that security is strong, security is very tight. We are not breaking loose. Everything is on course.
Let's provide a fair playing field for everybody to operate. But if you start and you want to suppress our boys, you want to frustrate us, we've done this over and over again. We will not allow it to happen. Not in Asawase. It can happen in other places, but not Asawase, because Asawase, even though you might think that we have a lot of illiteracy, we have a lot of people who are literate, who know the law, who want to follow the law, who want to make sure that the right things are done. It doesn't matter who comes. Even if Nanado becomes the military commander in Asawase, we would insist on the right thing to be done. If Nanado becomes the district commander, we will insist and will force him to do what the law says. So it's not going to be easy for them. We will all get tired. They push, we push. They stop, we stop, so that we can have a successful election, registration.
Nana Sensu Mensah reporting.
The Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has appointed the Member of Parliament for Manson Kwanta as chair of his Foundation Management Board. Dr. Joseph Albert Kwam leads a 6-member team to raise funds both locally and internationally for infrastructure and equipment for student training. The fund will also be used to promote research for staff and scholars.
KNOST Vice Chancellor Professor Kwesi Obridanso lamented African research as mostly being funded externally to the benefit of finances.
Every university's purpose is to form the hearts and minds of our young ones who are the future of that nation. Again, every country develops based on the quality of the research of that particular country's university. Unfortunately, many of the research that goes on in our universities is funded by donor agencies that are outside our country and whose interest we often research on. For the university and therefore for our country to have its place in the annals of history, the research must focus on the challenges and the problems that confront us on a daily basis.
The new board is tasked to mobilize funds for the foundation, which has accrued over 3 million Ghana cedis since its launch in 2016. Dr. Kwam told the board's inaugural ceremony its mandate is crucial in uplifting the image of the university.
All part-timers given such an onerous responsibility, but the enormity of this task is not lost on us. Chairman, we know that duty calls, and when duty calls, one must rise to the task in the service of our great motherland. Chairman, I have the assurance of members of the board who are here to accept this responsibility on their behalf, and I pledge to work assiduously for the immediate benefit of this university.
Meanwhile, Dr. Kwam has appealed to the University Council to appoint a female onto the board to balance their work with some feminine perspective. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
We'll now take you to the Upper West region, and it's where Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali has warned his outfit will deal ruthlessly with anyone caught illegally felling trees. He laments that despite the ban on the felling of rosewood and illegal mining, the practice still persists in the region, mainly perpetrated by the natives. Dr. Bin Sali was speaking at the reconstituted Upper West Region's Coordinating Council meeting in Wa. Correspondent Rafiq Salam brings us more.
Addressing members of the reconstituted Upper West Regional Coordinating Council on a wide range of issues which hinge on the development of the region, Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali stated that despite the ban on illegal mining and felling of rosewood, the practice is still going on, which is a grave concern to the region.
The fight against illegal logging is hampered by the activities of natives who collaborate with the buyers to cut down rosewood for it to be salvaged later. I want to appeal to our chiefs, who are the custodians of our lands, to stop the endorsement of the activities of these people. The activities of illegal miners is polluting our water bodies and degrading the environment in the region, and consequently has negative impact on our livelihood.
Dr. Bin Sali disclosed that government is bent on revamping the agriculture sector, hence the introduction of several flagship programs like Planting for Food and Jobs and Rearing for Food and Jobs. Dr. Bin Sali, however, noted that government effort will come to naught if the smuggling of government-subsidized fertilizer into neighboring countries does not stop.
This notoriety has gained national attention, and we must all confront this negative phenomenon together and reduce it to the barest minimum. I want to encourage the residents along the borders and security agencies to check the activities of these nation wreckers who want to undermine this laudable initiative of the government. I have cautioned input dealers in the Sisala East and West Assemblies of my resolve to recommend for the revocation of the license of any input dealer who is found to be involved in input smuggling. I did not mess words when I met with the security agencies to put their agencies to up their game and not to be accomplice to the smuggling of fertilizer, else risks being reported to their superiors for their actions or inactions in perpetrating this crime against the nation.
Reporting for the news, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Well, to end the bulletin, we have to go to the adjoining region, the Upper East region, and it's where the regional minister, Tangoba Abayage, has donated food items, face masks and liquid soap to inmates at the Navrongo Central Prison. She also donated some assorted items to the kids' ward at the Navrongo Hospital, all as part of thanksgiving for her victory in the recent MPP parliamentary primaries and also to mark her 56th birthday. We'll bring a report by regional correspondent Albert Sorry.
Upper East Regional Minister Tangoba Abayagi began her thanksgiving by worshipping with the Catholic congregation at the Navrongo Minor Basilica. She was accompanied by several district and municipal chief executives to pray and to show gratitude to God for his blessings in her life. She said it was her first outing since she was elected the MPP's parliamentary candidate for the Navrongo Central constituency.
We thank God for the peaceful nature the practice conducted, and we are praying that he looks down with favor upon us and continue to give us the peace that we desire. Pray for the president, pray for his leaders. Let's pray for the Universal Church and pray for our constituency that God will continue to put his hand on us.
To further celebrate her victory and to mark her 56th birthday, which was on the 30th of June, Tangoba Abayagi donated some items to the kids' ward of the War Memorial Hospital at Navrongo. The items included liquid soap, tissues, baby wipes, biscuits, and soft drinks. She also donated some food items including rice, oil, canned tomatoes, and a cow to be used to prepare meals for inmates of the Navrongo Central prisons.
I've always been making donations, particularly to the kids' ward. I thought that since it's a double celebration, let me do double presentation and look for the vulnerable. But you can't be giving food to unhealthy people. So I thought that, as you said, in the era of the COVID-19, let me also bring you some PPEs to be used. This is my first time of stopping over here. I'm promising that next time I'll come and then I'll enter and then go around and see what is happening today.
The Upper East Regional Minister also donated some face masks, liquid soap, and tissue to help the inmates of the Navrongo Central prisons better observe the COVID-19 safety protocols. The officer in charge of welfare at the Navrongo Central prisons, ASP Oscar Pioyere, expressed their gratitude to the regional minister.
This will help us fight, to help us observe the protocols and to be able to fight this COVID-19 pandemic. We are most grateful to you, the inmates are most grateful to you, and more grace to your elbow.
For Joy News, Albert Sorry, reporting from Navrongo.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, that's it, the latest news update. But we do have more news as we look at the newspapers, and Gifty Andwapia will be joining us. Myself and Mama Vio Sobwaje. Do stay with us. Joy News TV is always available. We stream, and when you get onto the channel, make sure you subscribe, click those notification buttons, and whatever uploads or posts or streams that are there, you get those notifications on your devices. Well, Mama V is right here. I'm happy that she's back. Was a bit under the weather, taking care of related health emergencies. You know, we're all in emergency periods. Mama V, welcome back.
Hi. Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I
Nice.
hope you're good.
I am. I mean,
you're trying.
Yeah, God day.
Well,
God day, so we day.
You know, just this since yesterday evening, I'd been hearing the news about President Bolsonaro of Brazil, who apparently also has some cough and some symptoms. You know, he's
actually tested positive for the COVID-19, which not surprising to many, but I guess because he's been so I don't know what's the term.
Adamant.
Exactly. I mean, absolutely no cause to social distance. I mean, he doesn't believe in a lot of things. He thought this was a little cough. This wasn't such a big deal. So to think that, but the thing is, people can't tell to what extent he's been infected. I mean, obviously he's young, unless he has some underlying conditions. He may not be seriously ill. So I guess we'll know. But he's you know, relatively youthful. Yeah. So we will get to know in the course of, I guess, the coming days how severe this is.
Sure.
But there are still people in Africa, there are still people in Ghana, still people in Nigeria and other parts who absolutely don't believe that there's coronavirus.
It's very surprising.
Yeah, we're still in that. And to think that we're recording a lot more cases even now, Roland, and some people still don't believe that there's anything like COVID-19.
Yeah, we don't have Gifty on stream. Gifty, good morning to you.
Hi, Gifty.
Hi, good morning. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you and hear you. That's the voice I want to wake up to, you know?
Big, bright red. It's good morning.
Gifty, how do we stabilize your network? Like, what can we do?
I hope the internet is stable now. Yes.
Does she live in the eastern region?
She doesn't live
because
in
I know the only place where the internet is bad is the eastern region, around Kuntum.
Who said the internet is bad there? Who told you that the internet is bad at Kuntum?
Because you never check your WhatsApp messages when you're home, so I'm thinking your internet is bad.
You need some rules when you're home. Home is home. All right, Gifty will be going through the Business and Financial Times and the Ghanaian Times and the Statesman newspaper. Like, Roland, what's the problem? Don't you have home rules? Gifty, don't you have things you do at home and things you don't do at home? I mean, there must be some rules at least.
Okay, I'm not sure I follow, but rules what you do at home and what you don't do at home, I'm not sure.
Okay, Roland is complaining about me not checking my WhatsApp regularly. And I have a rule when I'm home with the boys. I spend a lot of time and attention.
What I was going to say. Yeah. In your home, you have what? 3 boys.
I do.
2 small, 1 big one. So, but in my home, WhatsApp is, you know, I'm on WhatsApp 24/7 because
I know. Okay, so let's start. I guess I can safely begin with the Daily Graphic newspaper. So here's what's on the front page. Ghana Health Service sounds alarm bells. 400 COVID-19 cases recorded daily, and they are essentially quoting the Ghana Health Service director who who spoke to the press yesterday as part of that ministers' meeting. And here's a quote. There's an increasing trend. This tells you that we're doing an average of 400 new cases a day, and that is something we really need to take caution of and make sure we bring it down, unquote. Well, if you've been monitoring what's happening elsewhere in Australia, they are back to lockdown. In some other parts as well of the world. Some people did the strict lockdown, lifted, and they are back to some form of lockdown again. President firmly in charge of states, according to the information minister. Bring back Domalovo campaign launched. WAEC releases a WASI timetable examination. Begins July 20. We'll see if we can take our viewers through how the timetable looks like. President pledges support to Valentina Mintes' ICC duties in the center spread. Student Loan Trust releases funds for disbursement. Attach seriousness to COVID-19 fights. That's a call by the Catholic bishops. I'll come back to the story. WAEC releasing WASI timetable. On the back page, NGO supports maternal child healthcare delivery in northern Ghana. And father jailed 7 years for chopping off daughter's leg. That's a bit bizarre considering that's a father and a daughter. It says the Aguna Swedru Circuit Court has sentenced a 37-year-old man residing at Kojoama near Aguna Swedru in the Central Region to 7 years imprisonment for chopping off the right leg of his 2-year-old daughter. The convict, Mauli Bosu, pleaded not guilty to the charges of causing harm and the use of offensive weapon. He was, however, found guilty by the court, presided over by Mr. Jonathan Nuno. Maybe we can get into a bit of the facts later on, but let me continue with the Chronicle newspaper. Front page, alleged police killing at Konongo Adam Professor Akosa, Komfanochi Teaching Hospital pathologists face off in court over conflicting post-mortem reports. That's also something that we'll get into details on. COVID-19 wreaking havoc on Ghanaians. NDC bosses serve game to the vultures. And Action Chapel bishop seeks refuge at shrines. There's a picture of a certain gentleman, Joseph Berima, who they say is an accused. Not sure exactly how this one is going, but details in the Chronicle newspaper. On the back page, they've got some sports. So let's skip to the Finder. That's my last paper, and then Gifty will come through. On the front page of the Finder, big boost for COVID-19 testing. Enough consignment of reagents arrive in Ghana, according to Dr. Kuma Buaje, who is the Ghana Health Service Director. Reverse Domilovo's proceed on leave decision. CSOs to President. Transport fares to go up by 15% from July 11. The Rebecca Foundation commissions 2 libraries in 2 communities. And that's how it looks like on the front page of the Finder newspaper. Gifty? Gifty?
I go through what I have. I'm having a little... Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Apart from the usual breaks, we can. Okay. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. It was much better yesterday, but let's see how.
Are you saying my presence has worsened the network?
It certainly looks like it. I don't know, but anyway. Be fine. So I have the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Ghanaian Times seems to have a lot of stories on the front page, but the banner headline is TCH performs 540 fistula surgeries out of 600 cases. That story is on page 13, and it comes with a picture of the health minister. At the top of the newspaper, we have senior minister test positive for COVID-19 as Ghana's case load. Ghana's case load reaches to 21,968. That's almost 22,000 there. And it comes with a picture of Osafoma for the senior minister as well. 13 final year SHS students in 4 schools test positive for COVID-19, 13 so far. And that story also is on page 12 of the Ghanaian Times. And then 500 CSOs want president to rescind decision on Domilevo. So these are the stories on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. Let's get on to the center spread. The center spread has that story about the final year, 13 of them across 4 different schools. That story is there. And then phone over bad roads, 3 drivers are injured. It comes with a picture of IGP Pombuino. And then Tamale Central Hospital performs 550 fistula surgeries. That story, all of those stories on the front page seem to be on the center spread of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's quickly take a look at the back page. Bust Cocobalt close offices to protect workers against COVID-19. That's a story we've been running on Joy News since yesterday. And then Hajj Board promises refund of pilgrims' fees. Okay, looks like the trip didn't come on. So these are the stories that Ghanaian Times newspaper is reporting. I'm supposed to have Statesman as well. I don't know if I should go on with it or if you want to come in before.
No, please do.
Amabi and Roland.
Go ahead.
Please go ahead, straight away.
Okay. Right. So I have the Daily Statesman. The Daily Statesman big banner headline says, "Why Lodina forced Nana on Mahama," the inside story. And that story comes with a picture of the former First Lady, Lodina Mahama, as well. And then other stories on the front page of the Statesman. President Akufo-Addo is hale and hearty. It comes with a picture of the president with a mask. Of course, we know that the president, we're told, is in isolation or quarantine. And so people have been asking questions about how he's doing. Some say he's flown out. So that story is there on Statesman. Also, GHS, Ghana Education Service, Ghana Health Service, reassure parents of safety of their student. One of the stories on the Statesman newspaper as well. Let's see what they have in the center spread. Just give me a moment whilst I go through all these documents. Okay, so Statesman, let me move on from Statesman to BNFT. BNFT says COVID-19 heightens debt repayments challenges for borrowers. You can find that story on page 3 of the BNFT. And then APSA unveils initiative to enhance growth of local startups. Then transparency in payments needed to keep us in business. And then reinstate nuisance taxes to fill revenue gap. I don't know who is saying that, but yeah, nobody certainly wants to pay any more than we're already paying. So that story is there on page 3 of the BNFT. 15% hike in transport fares to kick off Saturday, and a lot of people are not particularly happy with that story. Still on some of the inside pages of BNFT. West African consumer sentiment reflects global uncertainty. And on the back page of BNFT, Vodafone invests to connect Africa for a better future. Abiola is Woman of the Year in Emmy Africa Awards. She's been picking up a number of these awards over the years, and I get the indication that my internet is unstable. I hope this works. Then finally, UBA Group announces appointment of deputy managing directors for Nigeria and Africa. Roland and Mamavi, because of my instability, I don't want to go on and on, but these are the stories that we have in the BNFT.
Incidentally, while you are seeing the signs that it's unstable in front of you, it's been the most stable the last few minutes. And so I don't know what's happening. I think there's some witchcraft operating. Exactly. You know them. Which corner of the house are they?
I have no idea. I have to ask my mommy.
Well, let me just.
You're pointing fingers at me, so I have to release my profits on you guys.
I know, right? Let me do the custodian, and my good friend is the managing editor. I would do Mahama, but you're back, so don't worry.
So
I would do Mahama. Good morning to you, my good friend. Oh, Obiamwa, good morning to you as well. Member of Parliament for Kapim South, Deputy Minister, Ministry for Local Government.
You know, the Bekwai constituency, the man was disqualified or prevented from...
He called you?
No, he's going independent.
Oh, but he will lose.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you can't...
In this day and age, when you try...
You can't say that, especially when we know...
I think that
when we know
the president has been able to wipe out any form of opposition from 2012 up to now among all the delegates that voted. Charlie, it won't work.
Okay. We've seen that happen, especially in Bekwai.
No, it won't work. It won't work.
Let's see what happens.
Well, the custodian has on the front page the registration of voters 2020, what you should know, and I love this. So it's on page 6 and 7. You go there, and Awudu has made sure that everything is there for you, and I think this is good education. We need more of this. Osafo has been trending so far. Senior Minister, test positive for COVID-19. Mahama dams Dufour for Nana. That's the... This is another angle from the The Daily Statesman, the other one, they said it was Lodina Mahama who imposed Nana on Mahama, and apparently this caption by Awudu also says Mahama dumps do 4 for Nana. EC sacks 3 officers, were told, has an attached picture of the EC chair. On the back page is about football. So now football has also been trending over the last couple of weeks. The Daily Dispatch has on the front page, MPP's quick attack on JM's running mate, a sign of fear. Is a question Benefson is asking. Was speaking on Angel FM yesterday. And I listened to him also. So we have his attached picture on the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Take Nana Opoku-Agyeman on for her record in public life. Spare her the indecent attack, according to Esla also. Yeah, I think this one is good. Because I was thinking, Charlie, so one day, what happens if MPP also nominates a vice presidential candidate or a running mate who is a woman? What would they do? Because then the NDC will come back. That's how we've been playing the politics in the Fourth Republic. So 8 reasons the MPP believes Nana Opoku-Agyeman is not fit to be vice president. The story is on page 2 of the paper. I've been going through it. Quite interesting as well. And the registration of voters 2020, what you should know, is on page 11. I love this as well. Charlie, today, the Daily Dispatch. Young Konkwa. Uncle Ben, good morning to you as well. Let's look at the Daily Guide has on the front page. EC registers 2 million voters in 1 week. This is a big headline. Should it not be? Senior minister is COVID-19 positive. And COVID-19 hits hard. Baptism of fire greets NDC running mates. On the back page, Muntari keen on SA move. Sex claims affected us, KP Boateng wife. And Ribery beguiled, ponders Italy stay, and Mourinho praises players bust up. You know, it was this one that was featured in the sports yesterday as well. And when they asked, he says it's good, it's beautiful for the game. It means that they are very sensitive and eager to play for the team. Okay, so that'll be it. What's your pick? Mama V, since you're back, I'm sure you have a lot of things to say. So what's your pick this morning? Okay, you're not ready, so I'll go to Gifty. Gifty, what's your pick?
Oh, wow. What kind of moderator are you?
No, Gifty's internet.
Well, why do you say Mama V is not ready?
No.
Oh,
okay.
my internet hasn't done anything. I'm here.
Okay. Please, Mama V, go ahead.
No
Gifty
way.
has given.
I won't mind you. Go.
Oh, no. Please, I apologize.
What's that to apologize?
We just have a running mate, woman. Oh, Charlie.
Gifty, go ahead. I'll pick up after you. Go ahead.
Gifty's internet. I told you it's bad. Gifty's internet. It's stuck. Mama, we go ahead.
I just say I'm not when we do Roland. Okay. Oh dear Lord.
I think we've found the wizard. You're stable now. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just going to say that when we do the newspaper from home, you know, it's usually the digital version of the hard copy that we have. So sometimes you don't get to see all the little stories. But I mean, looking at the front pages, nothing really surprises me. But I like the story that Ghanaian Times is bringing up in the midst of coronavirus, where we've all gone crazy and it's all about coronavirus. There's this story that's also very important, fistula. And it's exciting to know that 540 fistula surgeries have been conducted out of 600. That story is on page 13 of the Ghanaian Times. I don't really have it right now, but I'd be interested to find out what the details are, who is paying for these surgeries, because it's also a very expensive surgery that the people who actually are exposed to it cannot really afford. So it's a good story to tell right now. Now everybody's focus is on coronavirus, so we don't neglect it. A story I'm particularly interested in. We've done a couple of stories at Joy News, but every now and then women tend to have this. And one of the reasons that we've seen underlying the fistula cases is child marriage, which happens a lot in our communities. It's still happening. There's still a lot of education, but it is still happening. It's like a very unique story for me today. Otherwise, everything else is the same old and predictable stories. We have also a story that catches my attention, the 13 final year students. We started yesterday. I mean, all I heard was that 6 people have been, because I'm home, 6 people have been infected. And Times is reporting that this is actually spreading across 4 different schools. 13 people have been have tested positive. How do we even trace? You realize that a lot more of the students, I don't know how Ghana Health Service is going to deal with this. That's better information, sending information across to the families, to the parents will work. Whilst we deal with an overwhelming situation, yesterday we about it, and it is still here with us. So those will be my pick. I wish the senior minister, otherwise everything else to me, Mama V and Roland, looks like the usual, the usual politics.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So Gifty, let me help her, since you picked the story about the Tamale Central Hospital performing 540 fistula surgeries. I've got the details. You are looking at the funding, so let's talk about that. This is the medical superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Mahamadou Mbenewa Waya, who's speaking to the Ghanaian Times in the story, and he says that the surgery had saved the lives of the women and restored their dignity because they were objects of stigmatization in the communities, and the cost of the fistula surgery is $300, he said. But the United Nations Population Fund supported, which is the main center for the fistula services. So they supported the Tamale Central Hospital and did the surgery for 6 regions of the north with logistics to carry out the surgery for free. So this is absolutely free. They're not paying the $300. They had support from the United Nations Population Fund. But for those of us who are wondering what this is about, Justice Beidou in particular, some of our colleagues have told many stories about people who suffer from this. Usually persons, women would leak urine and smell badly when they are in the midst of other people, and they are shunned and stigmatized. So they usually would not be parts of society necessarily, but there is a surgery that can obviously get rid of this. Which is,
if I can step in there, is it allowed? Is it okay? So just to paint a picture that vividly tells, it's essentially the system. So you can hold urine and you cannot hold your feces as well. It just comes. This is fistula. It just comes at any time, and you can't control it. You can do nothing about it. It's just terrible. It's like a part of your vagina tears up, into your anus. I mean, that's my understanding of it. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. So you can just be there and you have feces on you. You're there and you have urine on you. It's just bad.
I'm just glad that the Tamale Central Hospital is able to do this, and they cater for 6 regions in all. So I guess congratulations will be appropriate. We need a lot more support so we can get rid of some of these societal issues that can be dealt with. But I also wanted to pick on Gifty. You talked about the 13 final year students in 4 schools testing positive for COVID-19. Details in the paper, and that's also coming from that press briefing yesterday. So Dr. Yao Osei Edichum, who is a Deputy Minister of Education in charge of basic and secondary education, confirmed that 6 students at the Accra Girls Senior High School tested positive. In addition, a teacher at the school, together with his wife, had also tested positive. 2 other students from Odogono Senior High School equally tested positive for the disease in Accra. In the Ashanti region, 3 students at the Konongo Wesley Senior High School tested positive for COVID-19. In the Central region, in Fansipim School recorded 2 confirmed cases. This is all contained in that disclosure by the Deputy Education Minister. I just wanted to cross over to Kenya and say that in Kenya, they've actually scrapped the entire 2020 academic calendar. So no examination whilst we're talking about WAEC, bringing out calendar and cautioning that there are fake websites around talking about the calendar, examination questions, and they're trying to deal with that. In Kenya, they say they're a sovereign nation. They've heard that children, young children necessarily do not spread the virus, but they are making their own decision as a sovereign nation. So they've scrapped the 2020 academic calendar, and no child is going to school in Kenya.
But that's also an argument that a lot of people made and said that we don't need to rush.
Okay.
Everybody in the world knows where we are. Everybody in the world knows what has happened. So we don't need to rush it. We can take that decision to scrap the academic year. Oh, I don't know how much that will affect us.
Well, not scrap it.
I really don't know. Even Ashese, you know, Ashese, Dr. Patrick. Okay, I hear myself breaking. So let me just.
Just when she said she hears herself breaking, she wasn't breaking, but
yeah, surprising, right?
But we have to do Roland Walker. Take us to myjournalline.com.
The witches of Gifty's house. Today they're on you. Seriously. Just when I thought women's empowerment should be ruling all spheres of society, including technology,
Is that
ICT,
part of the headline on myjournalline?
On the homepage of myjournalline.com, police calm protest in KNUST Senior High School following death of a student after alleged neglect over COVID-19 fears. And, you know, this is a time that we also need to make sure that we thoroughly just don't go to press in some of these, because sometimes we have to, I believe we have to spread calm amid all the turret and all the things that are happening.
Don't come spreading calm instead of fear.
Yeah. Because sometimes, you know, we're all panicking, and if you don't take care, it creates a difficulty. Government commends Joy News Gary Al Smith for COVID-19 sensitization efforts. I think it should also have included me especially. I was supporting on the sidelines. I don't know why the editor didn't mention my name, only Gary. But Gary, we thank God that you've recovered. But for all the others also who have been affected by COVID-19, including the senior minister, we all wish you well.
Gary has been superb. And we must also say that there are people who are attacking him, and in the face of that, I mean, he stood really strong.
Exactly. Okay, Mama V.
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't touch on this story in the Chronicle about Professor Kosa and then Comfort Noche Teaching Hospital pathologist face off in courts, but this story will definitely come back. We'll talk about it. Plenty more stories. You can go to the newsstands and then pick the newspapers of your choice. You can also go to myjournalline.com. Up next, we've got sports coming up with Benedict Owusu. Arsenal is crying again, but not surprising. I think they're the only ones who are surprised. Stay with us.
It's time to update you in the world of sports. I'm Benedict Owusu. Thanks so much for joining me here on the show this morning. And of course, we'll show you highlights of how it all went down yesterday in the English Premier League when Chelsea beat Crystal Palace to ensure they take the third, at least for now. And then elsewhere, my brother Ojomi's team, that's AC Milan, they did wonders over the old ladies that Juventus. We'll show you highlights of that. Plus some other news coming through, and here on the local scene, we'll be in Kumasi to check on Kumasi Asante Kotoko. There's been an update in terms of the direction of the team, the top hierarchy, the management direction of the team. There's been an update. Kelvin Owusu and some of my colleagues will join me there to update us. But we have to start with one Ghanaian player who did very well for his club side in their league. That's the Austrian Bundesliga. It came to an end over the weekend. Last Linsk, that's where Samuel Tete plays his club football. What an amazing season. 29 matches, 7 goals, 4 assists. Well, it was great here for him, and we are happy to have him on the line with us. Samir, thanks so much for joining me on the show this morning.
Thanks very much, Benedict.
How is Austria?
Fine. Austria is fine.
Great. I mean, you scored 7 goals, 4 assists in 29 appearances. How would you describe your season?
Well, it has been good. I would say, though I wanted more, but yeah, day in day out, I try to improve as a player. I try to work hard in the team, and God been so good. I got 7, though I should have scored more, but I think I am happy with my performance this season. Yeah.
Let's look at LASK. I mean, with everything that you guys did, you played some good football this season. At the point you were leading. You feel that if not for the points that were deducted for breaking the coronavirus rules, you guys could have won this season's league?
Yeah, you could say so, because before Corona, I would say we were one of the best in Austria. We were unbeaten. We were winning games. We were on top as well. And when Corona came, yeah, we made a mistake in training when we were instructed to train in small groups. But we made full training with the whole squad. So we had some problems, and then the points were deducted. So I would say, if not because of Corona, maybe we would have been champions. Yeah.
All right, so we'll see how that goes. But now you spent 2 seasons at LASK on loan from Salzburg. I mean, how do you describe the experience there from 2018 up to your last game you played for them? That was over the weekend.
It's been a great experience for me, because before I joined them, I never played the Bundesliga. I was playing in the first division before I joined Red Bull, and I got injured. I was out for a while. So I think LASK gave me the opportunity to play in the Bundesliga, to show my talent to the world. And I think it's been a great years for me there in LASK. I have also had the opportunity to play in big games, and yeah, I would say it's been a great experience for me.
You played in the Europa League. Your last one was against Manchester United. You lost.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're going back to Red Bull Salzburg, a team that won the Austrian League, also won the Austrian Cup. So they made it a double. You're looking at the squad they have and what they've been able to do in this season. You think you can make a case for yourself and get a place in a team, or you'll be looking elsewhere?
Well, for now, the plan is to go back to Salzburg, and I can't say for sure if I'm gonna stay or I'm gonna leave, but there have been some talks. Maybe I might stay, maybe I might leave. So I can't talk into details. We just have to all wait, and then we see what happens in the next few days or few weeks.
I know you are getting ready to leave LASK for Red Bull, so I'm not going to take much of your time. But Sami, looking at from Wafa to Austria, that's where you've been for the past 3 years. In terms of your development and how you've become as a player now, how do you see yourself, and where do you want to get to?
Well, I would say I have developed as a better player now than in Wafa. Though I learned a lot of things in Wafa, but I have also developed into a better player, and also as a better person. Yeah, I've learned so much here, and where I want to see myself next is to be playing in the bigger leagues someday. So hopefully hopefully you will see me there. So
we'll see if you change the environment, or you still be in Austria. But our prayer is that something big will come. Maybe the team you are wearing their jersey, your favorite Manchester.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, so thank you so much for the time this morning. Really appreciate it. So that was who's in Austria, recently ended his loan stint with LASK Linz.
It's another Wednesday. You're welcome to AM Business. Now, leading wax print company GTP has added some color to these dark moments, documenting the major events of the coronavirus in the new line of designs. Charles Aite has seen these designs, and in this edition of AM Business, he gets to show us the designs. This is AM Business on a Wednesday.
Textiles, they say, imprint the experiences of memorable events in our lives, be they exciting or gloomy as the coronavirus. Here in Ghana, a leading local textile firm, GTP, is giving a positive narrative to the coronavirus pandemic. Chronicling national events from the lockdown to the various presidential updates, I sat with Stephen Bedu, head of sales for GTP.
With the onset of COVID-19, the challenge we sought to address was, how do we tell the story of COVID-19 in a positive light? How do we put a positive twist to something as accursed as COVID-19? So we challenged our creative team to the task to say, guys, what do we do?
A lot has changed since Ghana recorded its first COVID-19 case. The emergence of lockdown measures and the restriction in movement have sent businesses gasping for survival. Interestingly, these measures have had a positive turn on the local textile industry, hitherto exposed to the illegal proliferation of fake textiles into the local market from especially China and Nigeria. This is going to be the design room where all the magic happens. This is where all the magic happens. These creatives are the brains behind the 3 popular textile designs in the Ghanaian market. Fellow Ghanaians, Lockdown and Nana Spectacle. Oh yeah, you heard right.
Our President, His Excellency Nana Addo, you would notice that every time he addresses the nation, his salutation was always fellow Ghanaians. That was the first phrase you would hear. And it runs through all his speeches to the nation. And we thought this was a nice phrase to name the design which we're going to introduce, and therefore we came up with fellow Ghanaians. The other thing about those addresses that is the president's iconic spectacles. You can't miss it. And so that spectacle became the key motif. So in the fellow Ghanaians, you find that the spectacles runs through all the fellow Ghanaian designs, of course. And in the case of Lockdown, the padlock and key, those were the key motifs that runs through all those designs. And so this, if you, in a nutshell, this is the rationale behind these 2 collections that we introduced onto the market some few weeks ago.
We find these times as very abnormal times, and as part of the things we do, we try to capture events and activities that go on, which are almost landmark in our history.
Bismarck Eduasare oversees the creative desk of GTP. He walked me through the hidden details of these popular COVID-19 textiles.
This was, in our mind, the first measure that was taken. It was a stay-home measure. It was everybody being indoors. So we find chains and padlocks to the chains. So it was like we were all shut in at the middle of March up to April. There was nothing you can do but to just stay at home. So that was the concept, stay at home measure. Okay, this is also lockdown. So you still find chains and padlocks.
I don't see the chains. What are the chains? We've moved from the land to the air.
The air.
Okay.
To the air, right.
So this one has to do with the
airports being locked.
The restrictions on air movements.
Air movements, okay. So you see fans like the airplane fan blazed with the padlocks attached to them. Sort of no-fly zone or restriction of passengers. And that Nana here was the brain behind.
Nana was the brain behind it. Okay, Nana. So what made you bring all these things together to symbolize the restriction on air movements?
Oh, okay, what we heard was there was a lockdown around the airports and then the borders and then the various shops have to be locked down. So I generated this idea from the aircraft. We have a padlock Yeah, so which means like the airports have been, or the borders have been locked. And you have a keyhole here, and then you have a key holes here too. Yes. Yeah, and then you have a view of the padlock here. Yeah.
It's amazing the kind of brains you have in this design studio. But beyond all these things, we're getting the feedback, the demand is high. Has it put a strain on your guys here? Because it has to do so much to meet the demand.
Well, we are capable and we can take the demand. What happened was that we first produced 90,000 yards. Since then, we've put in about 200,000 yards. So I'm sure we can meet the demand.
Okay. I just can't wait to see the fellow Ghanaians and Akufo-Addo's spectacles.
You realize that in Ghana, the story could not be told without mentioning the Commander-in-Chief and the various weekly broadcasts he had to the nation. So in trying to depict it, what we did was that for one concept, we took his most favorite classic design, that is Hain Pankasa, and put in the glasses, which has become iconic for our Commander-in-Chief, and put the two together to create this wonderful design. This was also the brainwork of Dede, and it came out really nice. And we were amazed about the response. Yes.
The response has been amazing.
Yes.
But one thing about the textile industry has to do with the power of symbols. Yes. And during these times, this particular power is really catching up with so many Ghanaians. How do you intend to translate this particular thing into revenue?
Right. Since we created the design and then produced the cloth, for us, in selling it, it's like, it's not just about the revenue. It's getting every Ghanaian to own a part of this year. So that, as you rightly said, to posterity, we would have a story to tell. And that is more value to us. And in doing that, we also sell the brand name GTP.
The popular fellow Ghanaians print was created by Franklina Dedenate. This design has glasses on them, similar to the signature ones worn by Ghana's President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who's been given regular updates on the virus. How do you feel as a girl?
I feel very great and happy because at least I'm seeing people are liking it and they're also buying it. So I feel very happy about it.
The new fabrics have symbols like padlocks, keys, and planes to reflect some of the measures implemented to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Wax prints are popular in Ghana. Many office workers wear them on Fridays. Demand for these collections have skyrocketed, and for a textile company previously struggling to stay afloat, not more than 100,000 yardages of textiles hit the market daily, thanks to COVID-19.
We were amazed by the reaction of the public to this fabric. We've run out, we had to quickly set in motion the process to print some more. This is what happens in all our operations. The thing about designs is when you're introducing a new design, you never know how well it will be received. So you introduce like 10 designs into the market, sometimes only one, sometimes only two may be accepted by the market. So you introduce a certain minimum quantity to start with to test the market to see how well it will be received.
This warehouse is where distribution begins. Bundles of COVID-19 textiles ready to hit the local markets.
Demand is very high. We are in the COVID period. So a lot of people want the cloth just to remember the period one day, to tell their next generation that there was a period that we had the displeasure of the environment.
The textiles industry is a whole value chain. I visited this sewing shop owned by Linda Ashon. I'm interested to know how much revenue dressmakers are raking in.
As for this cloth, people are patronizing it. I've been stitching it a lot since they launched it. Every day,
so
people are coming for their own. It seems the cloth, everybody wants to get some. Yeah.
So for you as a designer, as a seamstress, do you feel COVID-19 has really brought its positive side?
Yes, it has. Though it's a serious thing, but I think it has done a lot for us. Like we were locked down, we are home doing nothing. But I thank DTP for bringing this idea, this cloth to town. Because of this COVID, everybody wants to have some in their wardrobe.
3 months ago, these dressmakers would have had their shops under lock and key as restrictions on movement halted every aspect of business in Ghana. Things have changed for the better, and they are positive of making gains from the coronavirus. What was the name of this one?
This is my fellow Ghanaians.
So you had it right. But what particular feature of this cloth catches your attention?
It's the spectacles. That's our president's spectacles, and it's so lovely.
But aside from this particular texture, I believe there are other textures that you've tried as well.
Yes, I have done the lockdown. The lockdown too is very nice, so colorful. You can do everything with it. Working with it is not difficult at all. You can get your designs how you want it, and you can get the shades for men and women, and it's lovely.
Well, we have seen the extent to which the coronavirus has had an impact on the business community. But we've also seen the positive sides of this pandemic as various apparel sectors and players in this field are cashing in on these new materials by GTP. It's not just a historic indication of the fact that we are putting together the impact of COVID-19 in print on the textiles, but also how much these guys are reaping in terms of the benefits in the long to medium term. I'm Charles Aita reporting for Joy Business.
Well, something to inspire all of us. This is history that's been made. So now you know the designs making bars in town, and dressmakers are obviously taking advantage of it. So you can look out for it, keep one in your wardrobe, and tell the story someday. That's it for AM Business. We bring you AM Business every Wednesday here on the AM Show. Now, let's hand over to Roland Walker, who is going to introduce an interview to us.
Well, so we went to the plush office of the Deputy Minister for Health, Dr. Bernard Okoboy, and we had a number of points to be the premise on which we asked some great questions. Ghana's COVID-19 rising case count, and how government is making the effort to make sure that we hold the spread. Just take a watch.
Interventions we put in place to see still some level of cases, because most of the interventions you put in place or countries put in place are supposed to reduce the transmission rate of the virus to the barest minimum. But it is almost impossible to say that because you've put measures in place, you are going to more or less wipe out transmission. In the early days of an outbreak, you can do what we refer to as suppression, where you can virtually push transmission below 1 to 0, and then the outbreak vanishes. But it is not all the time that you succeed in doing suppression when you've had some level of community spread. Especially in the absence of a vaccine, it becomes more difficult. And what we can do now is to make sure that we keep the transmission rate to the barest minimum. If 1,000 have it, you don't want 1,000 new cases when the first 1,000 recover. You want at least 500 when the 1,000 recover. And over time, you can get it out of the population.
One of the things that we've noticed over the period has been the emphasis on the fatalities in relation to what the infection rates are. It looks like that seems to be the refrain when it comes to the briefings we seem to get weekly. And indeed, we get 2 of them every week.
Yeah. Well, you mean the numbers with fatalities?
Yes, especially that. So we seem to be taking some solace in the fact that, well, we've just had up to date just a little over 100, and I believe the case count today for fatalities are 129, so we're having this interaction. And it seems to be what government seems to be having some solace in.
Well, I mean, to say no, we're having solace in fatalities, I think it's quite weird or crude. I don't think.
Well, perhaps in comparison to other countries, I mean.
No, you know, every death is regrettable. Even when a 120-year-old man or woman dies, there are people who cry because you wish you could have people forever. But the point I want to make is that in as much as every single death counts, you really cannot have a good appreciation of your situation when you only look at death in exclusive nominal terms. What I mean is that if you say, wow, I've had 200 deaths from COVID, and so my situation is so bad. The next question I'll ask is that, could you have done things in a way that would have made the deaths maybe 50? I can push you and say that, okay, you could have made it 20. But I can look next door, another country, and see whether with their best efforts, they're able to keep deaths in the tens or single digits. And so when you take a look at a country like South Africa, they have done about 3,310 deaths in SC now. Egypt has about, the number of deaths in Egypt, we're looking at 3,422. Mm-hmm. Mali had about 109. Nigeria has recorded 654 deaths. Now, the point I'm making is that once the virus can be fatal in some people, it's good to make sure that you avoid deaths. But at the same time, you must also be careful not to say that your system has come to a halt or has failed because you've recorded deaths. In fact, absolute numbers don't give much information. It is the percentages. And when you look at our mortality rate from day one, it's always hovered between 0.5 to 0.7%. The last time I calculated some few hours ago, we were doing about 0.7%. Now, what it means is that for every 1,000 cases of COVID-19, we lose about 6 to 7 people. Now, when you look just next door to a country like, let's say, Togo, the last time I checked, Togo was doing about 3%. Nigeria was doing about 2.5%. As for the US and Italy, we don't want to go there because they are doing 13, 40. So the point we are making is that this is a virus that can kill or result in fatality. That is why all of us must take it serious. Later, I mentioned to you, I'll come to the positive or encouraging aspect of COVID. The good news or the inspiring aspect of COVID. I'll mention that. But for now, my issue is very simple. COVID can be fatal in some people. We never know who that person will be. And so everybody should take the protocol seriously.
Well, we do know that. And I'll just take you straight away. There's an article that was published 6 hours ago on the BBC, and it's just captioned coronavirus, how fast is it spreading in Africa? And it's a question. And if you fast forward, you read before they get on to the graphical aspect of how the spread is. I'll read this to you, Dr. Okobo. It's that while it took nearly 100 days for Africa to reach an initial 100,000 cases, it took only 18 days for that to double to 200,000. It doubled again to 400,000 cases over the next 20 days. We're in trouble. Because if you look at the Ghana situation, even though it's not a replica of what's happening in Africa, you take the situation from the early part of March 12, when the announcement was made. We've now hit the numbers that we thought we wouldn't reach.
Yeah, I remember saying in the early days that you should be careful not to judge a country by the number of cases or deaths they have now. You have to look at what they could have had in the absence of interventions. So, if you take a country like the UK, they've lost 156,000 people through COVID-related deaths, 156,000. It's not like the UK went to sleep or is still sleeping. It's not like they are not having investments into testing, trying to isolate people, trying to do education. No, they are doing a lot of things. But in the midst of all their programs, they've still lost 156,000. It is possible if the UK had gone status quo, no intervention, maybe they would have lost 2-3 million people. How many deaths? Egypt has done 3,422 deaths. 3,000 plus people in Egypt. And I'm mentioning these countries because their economic strength is not that wide from us. Egypt has lost over 3,000 citizens. If you just jump and say Egypt is a failure or is a mess, you might be unfair to them. It's possible that if they are not put their COVID interventions in place, they could have lost maybe 15,000 people. As we speak, Israel has lost close to 380 men and women, citizens I mean. Roland, Israel and Switzerland are one of the countries that are very conscientious. They are cited by many articles as very strong in preventive medicine or public health interventions. Even they who are models, their deaths are rising. This tells you that your interventions are not an assurance that nothing will happen in your country. It would reduce the extent to which the deaths would have happened if nothing had been done. And that's why I always say that we should be careful. Otherwise, we would undermine and not recognize the efforts of health workers, government. Roland, you know, as we speak today, our airports are closed. The single biggest source of the virus is entry from other countries. If our airports, how do you call it, about 5,000 active cases, the next question is that how many active cases would Ghana have had if our airports were still open? If as a country we were not doing the testing in the numbers we're having now.
Is it also gainsaying that the interventions that we could have undertaken in a more sustained or a longer period, we decided to relax those interventions? The lockdown, just after 3 weeks, we decided to open up, and then also the related restrictions, interventions, we also decided to relax them. We're having an open period of registration, and all these creating the anxiety and the trepidation among the population.
Yeah, Roland, you know, I think before I go to the reopening of the lockdown and the easing, let me quickly say that if you look at the number of cases Ghana has, confirmed cases, 21,077. Please, in the 21,077 are all the 16,000 people who have recovered. They are part of the 21,000 cases. So I insist that looking at the confirmed cases doesn't tell you the story. In fact, you don't see much from the confirmed cases. It's the active cases that tells you the burden of the disease as we speak. Roland, reopening.
We actually have 21,968 just by today's count.
All right.
But very close to your number, yes.
Roland, reopening. All the scientists know, all of us are aware, that should the whole country and the whole world be indoors, the risk of having a rise will be lower. The virus cannot spread that much. This is a basic fact. We know about the virus. Stay indoors. But if you have a virus that is in a global population, and the curve shows that in the absence of a vaccine, it will be around for at least 3, 4, 5 years. The next question is that, do we stay indoors for 5 years? So nobody should make the mistake. Every country that eased restrictions is aware that easing of restrictions come with a greater risk than being indoors. But it's because there are other risks which might be bigger than the virus should you stay indoors for a protracted period.
So you're telling me there's always an opportunity cost for...
Absolutely.
And we were well aware of that.
Every country. In fact, that is why every country that has eased restrictions did it in a graduated manner, to see whether the ramifications can be handled or it will be overwhelming.
What we did, is that a graduated manner of easing restrictions?
No, but Roland, our kids are still at home. My kids are at home, but the final year students are at school. I visited Tertiary Presby Secondary School today. Final years are in school. SHS 1 are not in school. Why are they not in school? It is all being faced. As we speak, we allow some level of evacuations and all that of citizens or people who have to do essential work here. Our borders are closed. We will get there where the graduation will go. So the point I'm making is that every country that is restrictions is aware of the signs that letting people move comes with a greater risk. But it's because when you stay indoors, other risks start to mount. And I'll list one. I'll list some of them. The first one that was recognized in the US was that out of hospital deaths, those who die at home increased by 6 times in the US during their days of strict lockdown. People who would have come to the emergency with a heart attack or with chest pain died at home and were brought in as BID, or referred to as brought in dead in the medical parlance. over-the-counter medications for anxiety went up by over 34% in the US. Depression cases, mental health cases started going up. Then they realized that there is a bigger problem. In fact, most of the people who called for easing of the restriction were saying that they are dying from their economic situation. And Roland, sometimes I've heard media men who say that, why do you want to put economy ahead of lives? And if you've been monitoring my presentations, I always say that there is nothing like economy over life. It is actually life over life.
And so you're saying that the subject matter of what the opportunity cost was to look at, well, how far or plus or minus what we could get or not get, whether we kept the economy running.
But Roland, why are we doing contact?
You do know that the secondary schools were recording cases.
Oh, I'll come there, Roland. Why are we doing contact tracing? Why are we getting beds for the sick? Why are we investing in isolation centers and all that? We don't want people to die. In fact, we don't want you to get a virus. But should we get it, we have to make sure you're alive. So the bottom line is that all this activity is to make sure that people are alive and well. Now, there are other things that can take away lives, that kill people. So if maternal mortality can kill thousands of our women every year, and road traffic accidents will kill 7,000 Ghanaians annually, and the virus can kill, let's say, 500 a year, if all your investments go into the virus, and already with your limited or some investment in road safety, you are losing 7,000 a year. It is possible that you start to lose 14,000. So is it worth, or how do I put it? What do you really want? To avoid 10 deaths in COVID and have 1,000 deaths in road traffic accidents. Every death is important and should be avoided. And that is why I'm making the case that the one who is the health manager, when I sit at this table, I cannot afford to look through Ghana's situation with only a COVID lens. I must be interested in the risk in the population. And Roland, I tell you, anytime you step out of your house to go to multimedia, there is a risk of death from driving on our roads. 7,000 annually. How do you reduce your risk? You put on your seatbelt. You look over your shoulder. You look through your side mirrors, and usually you try to avoid over speeding. These are what we refer to as risk reduction behavior or measures. Once the virus is in the global population and we don't have a vaccine, what you have to do when you step out is to engage in risk reduction. I'm wearing my mask. You are also wearing your mask. We've kept some distance apart. It's because our risk of getting a virus now is higher than if I'd stayed at home today and not come to Ministry of Health. Roland, your risk of getting COVID-19 is greater if you step in multimedia than if you stay.
I do understand that, and then making an average of just a little over 2,000 fatalities for accidents is good, and then progressively saying that there are other fatalities that are recorded due to some ailments that are also within the public health system. I do understand that, but for us knowing we have hindsight and still reducing the restrictions, allowing students to go to school, and ultimately still recording cases while there is excessive anxiety on the part of the public parent, etc. That means we're just compounding the problem within the public health system.
Yeah, you know, we can drive our anxieties up if we want to, and we can drive them down if we wish to have them down. I've been a little bit worried by some commentators who speak in an alarmist fashion. This is a pandemic that has affected the whole world. And in fact, the last time I met one ambassador, I wouldn't mention the name, she told me that she's been here with her family since COVID broke out, and she's never felt like going back to her country because her safety and security and state of mind is just as it would have been if she had been in her country. This is a country that has provided facilities for taking care of those who fall sick, that provides opportunity for testing for those who have become contacts. This is a country that has invested in providing face masks to over 1 million people at the SHS level. We supplied over 3 million masks. We are doing all this to make sure that we have a population that is protected, their risk reduced. Roland, in Ghana now, when we talk about prevalence of a disease condition, we mean that when you take 100 people or you take 1,000 people, you can pick some number who have the disease. Now, the virus is in the global population, in Ghana's population. What it means is that if the rate is about 2%, it means if you pick 100 people from Teshi, La Scala market, you can pick 2 COVID cases. If you pick people from Suhum, 100, you can pick 2 positive cases. If you pick 100 people from Ministry of Health, you can pick 2 COVID cases. From multimedia, you can pick 2 cases. Now, it is because we assume that there are positive cases or people who might have the virus in the global population, in the Ghana's population. That is why you are wearing mask, and I'm also wearing a mask. It's not for fashion. It's because we assume that the person next door might be positive. So you do all these protocols because of the assumption. But if through a test it is established that someone is actually positive and not presumed to be positive, the fellow goes through the motions, which is isolating the person, treating the person until the fellow recovers, and then you let the fellow go. We should never get into the trap of saying that because one positive case was detected at multimedia should shut down. Because the Ghana Army recorded 1 case in Burma camp, the army should shut down. Because the mosque recorded, all mosques should shut down. Otherwise, the whole world must shut down. Because anywhere you test people, Roland, don't be surprised. Forgive me, someone quoted me that said it's no news to get a positive case. Are we surprised if you test students at less infant and get 1 positive case? Why are you surprised? The virus is in the global, is in the world population, is in the Ghanaian population. That is why all of us must take good care of ourselves, so that the one who has it will recover without giving it to you, and then the virus can be pushed out.
There's a considerable aspect about how equipped or not those who are the front line are. And we'll talk about the testing issues. But there are constant complaints, and indeed over the last 7 days we've been interacting with members of the Ghana Medical Association, nurses, and they constantly are complaining that they just don't have enough of the PPEs.
Yeah, Roland, so personal protective equipment, some of them are actually reusable, like a face shield. If you have a face shield, all you have to do is to disinfect it, and you can use it for some time. But we have what we call surgical masks, which are used and disposed for. You can use it daily, or sometimes in half a day. We have gloves which are also used and disposed. You dispose of them. Now, Roland, because PPEs happen to be one-time use materials, no matter the stock levels that you are giving, if we don't monitor the levels to do restocking, there will be inadequate levels over time. And so what I always say is that as a government, we are committed to keeping the supply chain going. Keeping the supply chain going means that if we give you 5,000 copies of the mask and it drops to 2,000, we must be aware that the levels are dropping. There are some claims or calls for supply with the how do you call it, argument that there's been shortages. I have heard of some of those complaints. Some actually, when you go into them, deserve attention. There are others also that when you go into or try to investigate, you realize that are actually...
You are saying the hospital administrators, your nurses, your doctors are not truthful to us?
I think I just said that there are some claims.
Because you're saying there are some claims that are made, which, if further investigated or scrutinized, may not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, I'll give you one example. In fact, 2. One from Director General Abuaji, one is shared with me, and that one that I had a personal experience with. The first one, like I said, is that I started by saying, the caveat, or the, what's the word? The prelude is that there are some claims of inadequate levels of PPEs, which when you go into are ones that deserve attention, meaning that you really must support or supply to keep adequate levels. There are some too that usually are unfunded when you go into them. And one example I'll give is that I got a call from a friend who told me one Saturday morning that they've had non-availability of PPEs in one of the big hospitals in Kumasi, and that because of the non-availability of the PPs, they are even refusing to take care of the relative. I had to quickly call the facility head. And Roland, the facility head told me that we have PPs. Give me the name of the patient. I went back to the person who called me, and now the person doesn't want to give me the name. You know, so, and the doctor told me that we just gave them all they need. In fact, this person mentioned a particular PPE item, which was in shortage. When I called the head, he said, we've given them, just mention the place. So the point I'm making is that we can't sit here and say that nobody really had inadequate levels of PPEs. What we encourage facilities to do is to share with us the levels of PPE so that when it's going down, we can intervene. And I'm happy to say that just this afternoon, about 3 hours ago, we met the Ghana Medical Association, the ministry met the Ghana Medical Association, the Ghana Health Services Director General was sitting, the Chief Director was in. What we've decided to do, and the letters will go out very soon with the blessing of my boss, Honorable Minister Kukwa Jamenu. What the minister wants to do is to help us set up what we refer to as logistics management committees at the district level.
And that will help resolve some of these difficulties?
Absolutely, because most of them have to do with monitoring. Because you have instances where you can go to the regional stores and you have, let's say, 20,000 N95 masks, and then you step into a regional hospital, and those in the hospital are saying, we don't have N95 masks, we need masks. So
it's basically just decentralizing the process of the logistical movement.
No. You see, monitoring is so key because monitoring will tell you whether it's a matter of non-availability, a matter of distribution, a matter of hoarding, a matter of inefficient, logistical management. It's the monitoring that will tell you what is happening. And this time, we are going to make some of the key stakeholders be part of the LMC. We are going to have the municipal health director for each district or the district director of health. We are going to have the facility head. Let's say if you take Lekma as a district, you are going to have the municipal health director for Lekma on this logistics management committee. You are going to have the facility head for the biggest.
Why don't you involve the clinicians themselves beyond just the administrators?
Today you've been quite impatient. I would have added them. So if you just okay. So we are going to have the health director, the municipal health director. We are going to have the head of Lekma Hospital, which is the biggest service provider. You are going to have the stores keeper, the stores manager for the district. Then you have a rep of Ghana Medical Association, a rep of Ghana Registered Nurses Association, and Ghana Laboratory Medical Sciences Association, 6 of them. So now you have all the stakeholders getting an assessment of what is on the ground and bringing us reports. This would help to keep the chain going, monitored, and then restocked.
The last week, we had interaction with the Ghana Health Service. Yeah. Indeed, during the briefing, it was said that we have shortage of reagents in some of the top labs that we have, and Noguchi is the most notable one. We interacted with officials of Noguchi, and they corroborated the concerns that had been raised by a number of the personnel. Have they now been restocked?
Yeah, Roland, before I even come to this, let me say that the flight arrived Saturday with reagents and most of the pipettes, all the things that are used in the testing chain. So we are on safe grounds now. But you see, that's why the meeting with GMA was very good. And we are going to communicate similar meetings with Ghana Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists and the nurses as well. Roland, because the whole world is testing for COVID, and you have limited companies that are into supply of the reagents, the chemicals you need to do the test. When you go to those companies, you have a queue. So we've had instances where you have the money, but you have to wait for weeks before you get the reagents. You can look at the population.
Is it not because we didn't think that our case counts up to date to be where it is currently?
Oh, Roland, I know you don't only watch Joy News. I know you watch other channels. If you turn on the news, in the US, there are complaints of waiting for reagents.
I know about what you're saying, but the point is that we may have done some regression analysis and gotten some indication as to where our case count will be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months down the lane.
Roland, the point is that when you are dealing with an epidemic or a pandemic that is dynamic, no matter how good your modeling is, all your assumptions cannot be right. And so, as a country, we must be in the position to live up to the challenge anytime it emerges in managing a pandemic.
And we had to wait till we get shortages.
The point I'm making is that if Ghana had been the only country with a shortage, I would understand, or how do you call it, I appreciate what I say. But Roland, the materials for testing are not like bottled water that every country can produce in numbers that they wish in their own comfort zone. You are going to about 2 or 3 companies in the whole world who have to deal with a global population of about 2 or 3 billion, Roland. Obviously, you are going to have challenges. And so some of the challenges we've had are structural challenges which have been occasioned as a result of what the whole world is dealing with. When you have money and you want an item, and you've been told that because US is in the queue, Turkey is in the queue, China is in the... Remember, ours arrived Saturday. There are other countries that are waiting for their reagents. It's because the whole world is going to the same fuel source. And if you've done some basic economics, when the demand far overwhelms the supply, there are many things that start happening. Either you're going to have shortages, you're going to have price hikes, you're going to have all kinds of scenarios. And I'm happy that at least we've gotten the chemicals and the equipment that we need to quickly restore our testing levels. That is absolutely important. And Roland, because you mentioned Ghana and deaths and all that, I've seen some article, I've seen some people trying to fly things on social media that Ghana is accounting, or is part of the countries accounting for the high cases in Africa. And when you read, you realize quickly that there is a lot of, I don't know the word to use, but misinformation over there.
You mean the number of cases? No, we're not.
Yeah, let me.
But if we take the case counts, though, you look at what the numbers are. We're in the region somewhere.
Yeah, Roland. So this is what they did. They just looked at the top 3 or 4 countries in Africa with the highest number of confirmed cases. And of course, when you look at Ghana, our 21,000 total confirmed cases. You can say that it's...
So this is what we have. Confirmed cases of COVID have spread, and how they have spread in Africa. So we do have South Africa in excess of over 196,000, Egypt following Nigeria and Ghana. So we're 4th.
It's good. And you see...
It's not good.
Yeah, Roland. So this is what...
What's helping us is the fatalities, not per 1,000 population, not in the regions.
I'm happy you've mentioned the fatalities.
No, we all do acknowledge that.
Yeah. You know why? Most countries in Africa, in fact, apart from South Africa, most of the countries in Africa, their testing regime is very poor. Roland, when I say poor, they are either not doing the test at all, or they are doing very scanty tests.
Meaning, if they were doing more tests, they would have recorded.
Roland, but how do you confirm a case if you don't test it? Most of the cases we had, if they are not being tested.
Well, the concern is that the government is giving itself credit, saying because we're testing, that's why we're getting more cases. Whilst in reality, it's also spreading through the communities, even to the point where we have top leadership in government who are even getting infected because of these interactions they have with the communities.
Roland, by the way, Nigeria, per million population, for every million Nigerians, they do 742 tests. For every 1 million Nigerians, their government tests 742 people. For every 1 million Ghanaians, this government tests about 9,000 of them. You know what it means? If Nigeria tells you they have 30,000 cases today, with their 742 per million, it means if they should dare test even 7,042, which is 10 times this, they are going to have 3 times 10, which is 300,000. So what it tells you is that Nigeria's graph or picture cannot be close to reality like ours. It means once Nigeria increases their testing regime, you should be expecting cases. And that is why you see their fatalities, it will be more. So you take a country like Togo. Togo, their cases is low because, of course, their testing regime is not like Ghana. But when you go and check fatalities, the fatalities do the exposure. Because if you test more, then your fatality or mortality would be lower. Egypt is doing, 1,319. Egypt. So Egypt's cases that you see over there, if Egypt should dare test like Ghana, their case should multiply by at least 5 or 6 times. No wonder Ghana would be mentioned as one of the countries with a high number of confirmed cases. Because, of course, if you are testing 9,000, and South Africa, by the way, is testing 31,000. That is why they are huge, their numbers are huge. So their graph is real. All other graphs in Africa, almost all other graphs, are far away from reality. Apart from Ghana, South Africa, the rest, that Nigeria is doing 740, like I always say. In fact, when I check, Mali is doing 806. And Mali has recorded 119 deaths. So, Roland.
So we're taking solace in that?
It's not even solace. When you test more, you can pick cases early, you can watch them closely and intervene so they don't die. Those who are not testing much end up having the cases. Remember, I will not mention the country. There was a country that said they were having mysterious deaths. Even for deaths, if you don't test, you didn't know. Only for them to...
You are even a member of parliament. So let's look. We found a number of cases. The Accra Girls Senior High School, 6 cases of COVID. Parents agitated, forcibly entering the compound of the school, and they want to take their children home.
But when you go home, the virus is in... The virus can be, if you stay at Teshi, the virus can be in Teshi. If you are done so, but the virus can be there. So where are you going? The virus is in the world's population. All you have to do is to ensure that you obey and go by the...
So you're saying that we knew that, well, we want the children to go back to school or the pupils to go back to school, yet we knew there would be some cases.
Look...
You're saying it's inevitable.
No, you know, for those who were shocked when some cases were recorded at multimedia, I laughed when I heard that people were shocked. Anywhere in Ghana, if you test people, you can pick a positive case. That is why anywhere you find yourself, you must take care of yourself. And by the way, and this point is very important, COVID is not like cholera. When there are 100 cases of cholera, all the 100 are sick, might be vomiting and running. But when there are 100 cases of COVID, about 92, 93% of them, or 94, are like yourself and myself. And so the point is that hundreds of cases, when mentioned, does not equate to morbidity or being ill. And that is why you must take care of yourself. The positive cases you might hear in Accra Girls. Should you go and do testing at Madina Market, you can pick a positive test there. The assumption is that anywhere you find yourself, there can be a positive case. And that is why you must take care of yourself. I'm happy that the girls who were picked at Accra Girls, I learned almost all of them, the report I got, are either having mild or virtually no symptoms. Now, this reminds us that it's not everybody who is sick and needs admission. Take care of yourself, because the next person next door might be COVID positive. Very, very important.
As we wind up the conversation, we do know about the policy based on what the utterance of the World Health Organization has been. And so we decided to be categorizing our recoveries in relation to the discharges. But we also do know that there's been some level of dispute that for even asymptomatic cases, they could have some level of infections as they go by, progressively.
Roland, so in managing a disease, almost everything we do is based on studies that have been done. So you are wearing this mask, I'm wearing the mask, because they did some studies to realize that the virus can pass through the air, through droplets. So we are wearing the mask. We use a sanitizer because studies have shown that chemicals, alcohol, can denature the virus, meaning can make it inactive. Roland, it was studies that showed us that even when someone is positive for COVID today, even 4 weeks down the line, they can still be positive. And so the WHO said, wait until the first person has tested positive before you let them go out of isolation. Then they realized that even for some who test negative, they come back to test positive again. So the WHO said, please do 2 negative tests before you let go. Then smart scientists sat down and said, wait a minute, does a positive test mean that the fellow is having the virus or is just having remnants of the virus? How do you tell that someone is having the virus? We do an experiment they called isolating and growing the culture. So these people isolated the samples in those who have had COVID for less than 1 week. And realized that when you culture, the virus multiplies. But for all those who have had the virus and have been well for 11 or more days, when you culture, no virus. Yet, their PCR test was positive. So what was the conclusion? A positive test after 11 days means that you have remnants of the virus. You have
Meaning what? It's only the load that's reduced.
When you do a PCR test, what the test does is to pick a segment of the virus. So if like it's Dr. Koboy, it will be looking for parts of my body because it knows how the parts look like. So when it picks my arm, it says that yes, this is Koboy's arm. But the one who is doing culture is not looking for your arm or your leg. It's looking for the whole human being to see whether I can multiply. So it was the culture experiment that showed that, wait a minute, all this while, if you are not careful, you can keep someone in isolation for 1 year when they are active and strong, because you still can be picking debris or parts of the virus when actually they are free of the virus itself. And so the lesson is very simple. After 14 days, even should you test positive for the virus, what is in you is not the virus that can shed or go to another person. You are not infectious and you can be allowed to go back into the population.
And you're not a danger to anybody at all.
Absolutely. It is the science that made us stick to the first protocol. The same science we trusted in the light of better evidence and knowledge is telling us that this is the way to go. And as we speak, in Dubai, they've changed their protocols. In fact, they are not even doing 14 days. I think they are doing about 11 days. When you go to Singapore, they've also changed their protocols. When you go to China, they've changed their protocols. Remember, this holds for people who have no symptoms. And in Ghana here, 97 to 98% of all our COVID cases are either in mild or asymptomatic condition. It means they've qualified for the first criteria already. They are waiting for the 14 days, and then off they go. No wonder close to 75, 76% of all our cases have recovered. That is the brighter side or the hopeful story about COVID, Roland. Many cases can be reported, but by the grace of God, many more recover. But since one or some can die, and we don't know who that person would be, it's worth taking care of yourself.
And so the key question then is whether asymptomatics can't spread the virus.
Roland, if you are asymptomatic, but you've had the virus for only the first 5 days, you can spread the virus.
Okay. So I'll quote a World Health Organization expert, and Dr. Maria van Kerkhove, and I'm sure that this has been quoted to you over time. And there was a simple question that was asked her. Initially, she said, it's not possible. And she said, we don't actually have that answer yet. And continued, it's possible, 40% could still spread.
You know, one thing, when you hear a scientist speak, Roland, we don't speak in absolute terms. We say science never says never. Although we've had studies done in Singapore, we've had publications made by the Academy of Sciences in Singapore that after 14 days, someone who is even positive for the virus cannot shed or infect anybody. Roland, you can pick 1,000 people and you can have one person who breaks the norm. So when you see a scientist speaking, let the science in me speak now, not a politician. The science will tell you that in as much as I have cited and read this article, I do not speak in absolute terms and pretend that this information I have will remain so until Christ comes. So in conclusion, Roland, let me quickly say that there is absolutely no need to fear or to be scared or to panic. The control you can exercise when it comes to wearing your face mask and observing distance and washing your hands should be what attracts your interest. Take care of your situation. The government will also make sure that we create a safer environment. And at the end of the day, the virus would leave. But you and I are supposed to stay behind. No one should live with the virus.
Well, thank you very much. And we've been speaking to Deputy Minister of Health, also Member of Parliament for Lejokuku, Dr. Okoboy, helping us clarify a number of issues related to COVID-19 and how well, as a country, we're managing that. But that way for our discussion for now. We go back to the studio. Well, we're back.
Yes, we are. We thank you for sticking with us. Let's talk about the voter registration exercise, which is going on across the country.
Have you registered?
No, I haven't registered.
You're not a responsible citizen. You're confused.
No,
okay,
I'm not
let
confused.
me continue.
I was just allowing you to say what you wanted to say because you're Roland Walker. I really don't care. But listen, it's been, this is day 8. It's been a week since we started this exercise. And that Sabit is at the Zongo Experimental Junior High School in Techiman South in the Bono East region. And then Peter Seno is our colleague at KJB, the Akan constituency in the Oti region. Both are joining with a situational report. So good morning to you guys.
Good morning, Mamavi.
Okay, great. Listen, explain what's happening where you are.
All right. This is
Okay, Peter, your network is a bit unstable, so let's go to Anas. Anas, if you can hear me, let's start with you.
School registration center or centers, because there are 2 centers here now.
Good morning,
and so this is just the outside of it, and as you can watch behind, yes.
Okay, so the 2 colleagues that I have on the line, Peter, let's come back to you and see if the connection is better with you now. Anas, can you hear me? Connect again, let's see. Start all over again because you're breaking.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, it's better now.
And yeah, here I am currently at the Zongo D Experimental Junior High School. We have 3 registration centers here, 1, 2, and 3. And the exercise started quite earlier this morning, not 7 exactly, but around 7:15 a.m. As I speak to you now, almost all the registration centers have registered more than 20 persons. I'm told they have an average of 160, 170 for the past 3 days. You know, this is the second phase of the exercise, and we are into day 3. The safety protocols, all the COVID-19 safety protocols that are in place, I have seen them being executed here. I see the Veronica buckets at the entrance of the building where the exercise is ongoing. I also see police officers ensuring that we have sanity at the center. Also, there are health officials at all the 3 registration centers taking temperatures of registrants before they are allowed entry into the queue. Also, one significant improvement I have seen so far as this exercise is concerned has to do with the adherence to the social distancing protocols. The previous days we've been monitoring this exercise, that particular protocol was poorly observed. But today, from what I'm seeing here, there are seats provided, and the people who are also waiting to get seated are all standing at a reasonable distance from each other. So that, for me, is the most positive aspect of what I'm observing today from the Techiman South constituency.
Okay. That's Anas Sabit there with what's happening, especially as the exercise also enters into a second phase. Let's see if we can get a better connection with Peter. Peter? Hello, Peter? Okay, we haven't quite... Peter, is that you? Okay, Peter is not immediately with us, reporting from KJB, the Akan constituency. Let's go to my colleague Winston Amor, who is also joining us via Zoom and talking about the ballot box, which is back this year, with some changes, obviously, because of the times that we're in. Winston, good morning. Hello, Winston. Okay, we can't quite connect with to Winston yet, but let's see if Peter, if you can hear me, are you back on the line? Okay, do I still have Anas with us though?
Hello.
Peter, go ahead and explain where you are. I see some student behind you.
Yes, these are students here at the KJB Asatu Senior High School trying to get their names first time onto the electoral roll. And so, in fact, the centers are, so we have two centers here, the KJB Asatu Senior High School proper, and then a center for the model school here. But this is the venue that is large enough to contain the registrants. And so, well, I have been inside. I'll take you inside pretty soon. But the arrangement, this is what I would call super observance of the various protocols. Of course, you can see them wash their hands before they enter. And let me just take you in, and then you see for yourself exactly what is happening inside with regard to the arrangement in there. And so, well, they would have to check my temperature first before I enter. Well, I'm 36.8 this morning. And so we are now inside the registration center here. And so as you can see, students are well neatly seated with their nose masks on and carefully arranged, if I may add. And everything is going on here smoothly as I can report this morning, except that there is no designated health official taking the temperature this morning, but they have their special duty person doing that here this morning for us. And so that is what is going on here at the KJB or the Akan constituency, specifically the KJB Asatu Senior High School Registration Center for the senior high school and then the model school here.
Okay, so Peter, this is only for the students or is it for the entire community, those who live close by?
Yes, it's for the entire community. So those in the enclave, resident on campus and then beyond can come here and register.
But as you're reporting, I see only students.
Yes, there are a few, dependents of wives of staff who came earlier. There's one woman here who wants to get registered, so you can see her in your shots. And a few came and left earlier. And so basically it's the student community and then for masters and then their dependents. But anyone who wishes to register here can walk in and then register for that matter.
Okay, not exactly the picture that Peter is painting. What you see on your screen is not what exactly he's talking about. But Peter, thank you very much. Anas, if you still can hear me, so from what you can report, the rounds that you've been making, how many of these centers exist?
You know, from what we know here in the Kitiman South constituency, each phase of the exercise goes with 20 registration centers. So the first phase, which ended at the weekend, saw 20 registration centers registered. As I speak to you now, we have another batch of 20 registration centers holding the exercise at the same time. I mean, it's gonna end. It started on Monday, and it's expected to end on Saturday. That is the 6 days. All things being equal. So as it stands, 20 registration centers are being undertaking this exercise and Saturday. So the third day comment.
Okay. Anas, thank you very much. We will leave it here. Let's talk about the ballot box now. And Winston Amoa, hopefully we have a better connection with you. Winston joins us to tell us about this year's Joy ballot box. Winston, good morning.
Good morning, Mama V.
You're sounding like you're singing like a lullaby or something like that because of the network. But let's see if you can answer my question. What's new about the ballot box this year?
Well, Mama V, I hope the connection is better now.
You don't sound like you're singing, so we're good.
Great. So this year's focus is on social inclusion and politics. And the new thing is that, yes, this year's ballot box, we have Adam also joining. So it no longer becomes a Joy News ballot box. It will be more like a multimedia thing with Adam taking care of the local language element. But it promises to be very exciting because we're touring 5 constituencies in the country, speaking to electorates and getting decision makers to answer the questions or the concerns that matter to the electorates.
Okay. So when is the bus moving?
Well, so it starts from Hohoe on the 10th of July. Show starts at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. The unique thing about Hohoe is that we're getting, members of parliament and parliamentary candidates and duty bearers from 3 constituencies, that's Afajato South, Hohoe constituency, and Kwando constituency, to actually meet at the old municipal assembly hall in Hohoe. And we're getting, the electorates within those enclaves to come in there, ask questions, and get the persons who are seeking to represent them address those questions for them.
So Hohoe is the first destination. You mentioned exactly. 5 places. Where do we go from there? And Hohoe is just on Friday.
Yes, Hohoe is on Friday. After Hohoe, in August, we'll go to Boku Central. And then in September, we'll go to Damango. In October, we go to Asase. And then we end it in the Greater Accra region in November.
Okay. But Winston, tell us about the box that we're putting out. Because obviously, because of COVID-19, a lot of things are restricted. And so we're going about this in a particular way. Explain the process.
Yes, so I like the fact that you've raised this issue about COVID-19. So what we are actually doing is that, in previous instances, we actually would allow lots of people to show up there. This time around, it is going to be limited to a maximum of 100 people. And it's going to be more of a, invitation-based program. We want to ensure that, yes, we'll give the representative a chance to come with some of, their supporters or followers. But we've also ensured that social distancing is going to be adhered to. We're ensuring a no mask, a no face mask, no entry policy. Our team is in place to ensure that even when it comes to the passing on of microphones, everything is immediately sanitized and ensured that nobody comes in there and leaves at risk of contracting COVID-19.
Is it too late for somebody to get an invitation? Because I know this is strictly by invitation.
Exactly, and that's why I said that, the team has been working with the candidates. If you don't have your invitation now, well, I need to speak to my producer to find out, but if you don't have your invitation now, it looks like it's going to be very difficult. But we'll see. I'm sure by close of today,
okay.
Will be done.
All right. Winston, this is the first time that you're on the ballot box, that we're going to be voting for you, beginning in Hawaii. How ready are you on this journey?
Well, I'm very ready and also very excited. You always would look up to the challenges that would come your way. So I see this more as a challenge and ready to take the challenge.
Okay, all right. Winston, thank you very much. And so the people of Hohoe, watch out, don't be fooled. He speaks very good Ewe. So we're coming your way on Friday. Winston Amwade leading the team on this year's ballot box. And he explains it's not just Joy News. So whilst there is the English version, there's also the Akan version. So we're going with our sister team, the Adum team as well. So it's the Joy Adum ballot box this year. Watch out for it. Is what's on your hat that will be in that ballot box. And that will lead the conversations ahead of this year's election. Stay with us. We'll come back with the National Cyber Security Center, which acts as the National Computer Emergency Response Team. What do you know about them? How can you benefit from their work? All that's coming up after this.
And we told you about that conversation. The National Cyber Security Center, which is acting as the National Computer Emergency Response Team, and they are responsible for the coordination of cybercrime, cybersecurity, and its related incident. And especially for many of you who have been following the trends on social media, you know Hush Puppy, who got nabbed in the Emiratis, supposed millionaire, and ultimately it's all because of the great works of cyber security experts. And we do have the head of that center right here in the studio, the head of the National Cyber Security Center, Dr. Albert Intwi-Boisiakon. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining me. I'm privileged to have you.
Good morning, Sir Roland. Good to see you as well.
Okay. Well, so we quickly would have to go through, but ultimately, if we want to ask the first question, it will be, what's really your center about?
It's very important, and it's good we have this platform to explain. I will start by saying that July 2017, Roland, is an important period in the history of Ghana's cybersecurity development. 3 key things happened that, drove our establishment. One, at the summit in Addis Ababa, AU summit, the president signed African Union Treaty, the Malabo Convention, which is the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection. The same period, Cabinet directed the Ministry of Communications to oversee Ghana's cybersecurity development, working in collaboration with other relevant agencies. It's the same period that I was also appointed to support the ministry in terms of the development. So with regards to the institutionalization of cybersecurity, which is consistent with what every country is doing, not only in Europe and Asia, but also African countries like Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, others are doing. And out of this key directions, the National Cybersecurity Center was established. I want to also draw the basis for the establishment. I mentioned about a treaty by the AU, which requires countries to have national bodies to oversee cybersecurity development. It's a new area. And if you look at the criticality of digital platform these days, in terms of, COVID-19 has taught us that sometimes I think the only way we can survive and go about our productive activities, social interaction, is the digital platform. So I think those issues were anticipated, driving the convention and so on and so forth. But the ministry also conducted an assessment, when the ministry was given the mandate to oversee that development, by way of identifying the gaps within Ghana's digital ecosystem with respect to the protection of especially the critical national information infrastructure. So the mandate of the center as established is, one, to coordinate incident response, which you earlier alluded to. What it means is, like physically we have NADMO, which normally is supposed to respond when incident happen in the physical world. Equally, in the digital terrain, it's not a question of whether you will be attacked. Attacks happen. Even in countries like Singapore, Israel, US, which are ranked highly with respect to cybersecurity maturity, they are attacked. So you need to have mechanism in place to be able to prevent that. So that is a mandate of the center. 2 is the protection of critical national information infrastructure. What do we mean when we say critical information infrastructure? You sit here, Roland, you do banking. There is a platform, a database, a network system that allows you to do that. There is a mobile money interoperability system, which allows us to transfer money. That is a critical national information infrastructure. We have paperless port, absolutely. That allows clearing of goods in a digital manner. That is a critical national information. The telcos, the calls that we make, the transactions that we do online, these are digital systems. In other words, they are network-centric, if I should put it that way. Any attack on these systems has a potential consequence on the survival of our economy. It has happened before. Last year in June, July, Joburg, a city was attacked in South Africa. Their system to facilitate power, purchase of electricity, was compromised, and that caused them a severe issue. So these are some of the trends. We also have a mandate on awareness creation, and I believe the media has followed. For the past 3 years, we've done cybersecurity awareness months, and we're privileged to have the president opening the 2017 and 2019 sessions. Actually, the first on the African continent to do so. The last bit, which I need to also bring up, is the parents. Child online protection. The issues of children being exposed to risks online, whether it's content or the contact that they establish. And I think these are the areas that we've also collaborated with UNICEF to raise awareness level. And for the past 2-3 years, we've reached about 50,000 people from second cycle schools with respect to the outreach and awareness programs.
How does one detect cyber threats, so to speak, and especially with your center also in place?
Well, it's a difficult question. It depends on the nature of the threat, I must say, and I will use an example. Most Ghanaians use mobile money, so let me use an example. And there is a risk of fraud with respect to the transactions that are done. If somebody calls you and say, I have mistakenly sent you money to your number, so please transfer the money back to me. This is a scam, a social engineering tricks. What you need to do is further ask questions, possibly talk to your mobile money operator, check your credit, your balance, whether, indeed there has been addition of your balance before you actually act, even if you want to be that generous enough, to do. That is why you do online banking. You receive an email that asks you to share your logon credentials. Absolutely, you need to speak to your bank. In the normal circumstances, as a good banking practice, no bank will ask you to actually share that information. So we need to, it all depends on what the issues are, the kind of threat that you are faced, and the center is always available to provide guidance. Anybody who calls, we've established a point of contact. And I can share the details to you. You can call 292 to speak to analysts who will be able to provide certain guidance. So ordinary people, you can also text same to 292. In fact, we also have a WhatsApp number, for example, 050-1603-111, which you can also reach out. A website or even an app, NCSC app can also. And these are some of the mechanisms the ministry has put in place through the center to assist people who may not have anybody available to help them. But businesses can also get help and rightly also consult cybersecurity companies and experts available to assist them in this regard.
But if we want to move forward, we also do know that the National Cybersecurity Emergency Response Team is responsible for coordinating cybersecurity, cybercrime, and its related incidents. How do you ensure the anonymity of individuals who report cyber criminals, so to speak, whistleblowers, if we can use that synonym?
Well, let me once again clarify the work we do here. I should have brought this earlier. Our mandate also requires to work with certain group we call the Technical Working Group, National Cybersecurity Technical Working Group. That comprises the CID, the BNI, the Bank of Ghana, National Communications Authority, NITA, all the agencies that one way or the other have a mandate on cybersecurity. So what we do is we work together. If there is a report made to the center, analysis done by an official of the center, and there is an element of criminality, what do? That case is referred to the CID, because the CID is the body mandated by law to investigate criminal cases. If there is a case that involves money laundering, FIC is a national institution mandated to do that. If it's a telecommunication-driven issue, you need to involve in NC. If it's a financial fraud, money has been transferred into a suspected account, the Bank of Ghana ought to come in. So I think these are the players. It's not just the center operating as a single entity, but we work in collaboration with those institutions. Each one of them legally has a mandate to perform a function that contributes to the development of Ghana's cybersecurity ecosystem. So these are of course, the police has got protocols, but our officers, they are the first handlers of the incident, have also been trained in data protection. And of course, if you work in security, they have background, checks done. And absolutely, I think their level of integrity with respect to data confidentiality, that's a minimum requirement for you to be able to operate in that area. So I think.
And early on, you make allusions to regulations, laws, etc. And so it means that prosecutions could take place. But with the current structure of the laws that we have for prosecution, for cyber crimes, are there gaps in them, and how can we improve it?
That's very important. I've done a bit of work across the continent. And generally, there are three specific legislation that are used to address cyber-related issues. One of them is the crime-oriented. So you have offenses that criminalizes certain behavior in the cyberspace that are not acceptable in the society, in a country like ours. Then there is another one, which is the privacy-oriented Data Protection Act, which we have, Act 843. What Ghana lack at the moment is the security-oriented, the protection, the proactive aspect of the legislation. And as I speak, the Minister for Communication, Honorable Esla Ozu, has sent a bill to Cabinet. And we're expecting that in the matter of days, we should get a Cabinet consideration and Following that, it will go to Parliament for consideration. The minister's timeline is to have a cybersecurity bill that will regulate the cybersecurity ecosystem by the end of the year, and I think it's very important. The gaps are there. We need to, as I mentioned, COVID-19 is having a whole lot of implications. Businesses are moving digital, and if we do not have the laws in place that will then strengthen our efforts in protecting those infrastructure, there is a serious risk. The other bit is also we need to build a national computer emergency system in a way that will be able to better protect what is happening, whether in the government space with respect to the digitization drive being championed by government or the private sector initiative that are even SMEs. We need to reach out to them and provide them the minimum level of security that will allow them to operate. If COVID-19 is to continue for the next 2-3 years, and I think it is critical that we push this effort.
So how are we then faring if we have to make comparisons with our level of fighting cyber?
I think it's, once again, you need to get a benchmark. What determinant do you use? In giving a mark, you need to look at certain criteria. And I will point out to the system created by the ITU. ITU is a regulator internationally of this space. So there is a global cybersecurity index that measures countries' maturity level by a number of factors: the legal measures, organizational measures, technical measures, international cooperation, capacity building, and so on and so forth. So each country is assessed based on these parameters. Now, in 2017, Ghana was ranked 32%. Once again, I mentioned 2017 as a critical date in the history of cybersecurity in Ghana because of this development. At that level, Ghana was ranked 32. In 2018 data, Ghana is 43%. As I speak, the data from ITU hasn't come out, but we have passed above the 50. Once again, achieving 50 is still no good. Right? Thank you. Let me clarify here. It's a good progress considering the work that has gone in. For example, international cooperation. Ghana has acceded to the Budapest Convention. It has done also with the Malabo I mentioned. At the domestic level, a safer digital Ghana awareness has been created. The UNICEF collaboration for the protection of children online. NCA has set up a computer emergency response team to support the telecommunications sector. Bank of Ghana effort has reduced the fraud. So there are certain empirical data that support the ranking given by, Ghana's ranking by the ITU. However, we need to be clear that in view of the current criticality and COVID-19, if we do not invest in the protection of our critical national information infrastructure, we are likely to face a serious challenge.
Okay. And I know that you've been nominated, or Ghana has been nominated, or the center, by the Independent Advisory Committee. What does it mean for you as well? And then what may have led us to be nominated?
I think once again, it's good you've clarified. It's not about me, it's about the Republic of Ghana.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was using that synonymously.
I think the minister who, in her wisdom, in consultation with government, decided to appoint me to serve on this platform. But this is the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism, and the IAC is an independent advisory body that gives direction to this body. What is the main purpose of the task force? Is to deal with the growing trend of online terrorism, terrorist activities facilitated by the use of digital platforms. There is something unique I think Ghanaians need to know. The appointment was based on a number of factors. Indeed, Ghana is the only country that has joined countries like the US, France, UK, Canada, and this body. Only 7 governments, and Ghana is the only African country 7. What was the basis? They see the effort we are doing in cybersecurity, but not just that, because we are also respecting human rights. We call this human rights-centric activities with respect to our cybersecurity development. And I think the political commitment with respect to driving cybersecurity has also contributed to this recognition. And we look forward to work and bring further recognition to Ghana.
Well, so we've been speaking to the head of the National Cybersecurity Center and helping us do great discussions on the subject, Dr. Albert Inkribuisiako. Thank you for passing through the studio. Again, I have to say, I wish that we have a more elaborate and get to know what the center is doing. But moving on, Golden Figure Industries Limited is a fast-growing manufacturing company processing foods into quality organic cosmetic products, cleaning and disinfectant, produced right here in Ghana under certified FDA conditions. And they do have in stock GF hand sanitizers, GF rubbing alcohol, GF Jetyl antiseptic, GF multipurpose liquid soap, GF hand washing soap, GF antiseptic cleaner, GF multipurpose glass cleaner, and they are located at the Giselle Estates, SEC DVLA on the Wager Road. Make sure you contact them on the following line: 054-6274-070 and also 054-6273-990. And they have a reliable landline, 030-2957-950. Well, that'll be it for the show. Thank you for watching us. We do have more interactive shows right here on the channel. Have a great morning.